Hey everyone, Ken here. I think this is pond 8 number 5. A fair bit of work done yesterday, not so much on the pond. If you sort of look at the patio, it's a bit of a mess. We've done a fairly big clean up on the garden. You'll see there, that's the liner for the old pond and various bits and pieces around the garden. Nothing really to report on the pond. It's been a wet and miserable morning here, so not much done. Water still crystal clear, fish are happy, but there has been a fair clear up on the garden in preparation for returning the lawn back to some sort of usable shape. There's a lot of ruts in it. It wasn't great to start with, but we've 2 dogs, so it is a hard life. But with the construction of the pond, we've had diggers, we'd have dumpers, we'd have forklifts and the whole lot bringing in and out various materials and the old pond and digging foundations and so forth. So it just needs to be returned. I think we're going to probably take the easy route instead of rotavating. We're probably just going to fill in the pieces, the tracks, and re-level it and reseed it. You can see bits and pieces. This is where the Intex temporary pond was. The grass is starting to recover. There was nothing there, but we can still nice and flat, so we can reseed that. Here is where I had some ground to do my backfilling around the pond. There's a bit left over. I can spread that, but you can't see it so much, but this is where the various blocks and pallets were. There was sand there, and this is where the dumper and various things. So there's a lot of ridges and dips that need to be filled. So that's whether we get someone in or do that myself or not, I don't know. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a flush on the bottom drains, and I'll show you. Although it doesn't look fairly clean, I did top up the back there so I can pump in water into the main pond, because what I'm going to do is going to drop the level a bit in the main pond, and it takes hours to refill with a hose. So I prepared some water in advance, so I'll try and make my way into the filter house without killing myself. We'll be getting rid of all that over the next day or so down to the local recycling centre. So I have the filter ready. I've turned off the UV, I've turned off the air pump. I have a tripod, and I'm trying not to get my fingers in front of the camera. I realise I have a terrible habit of doing that. So what I'll do first of all is I'm going to shut down all of my gate valves. You can see these plastic things on them. These are a fairly crude measure just to stop them closing accidentally, but to be honest, I've never had a problem. So just take them off, close them all down, and I see. So close the 3 inputs. Now I still have the pump running, and I'll explain why, because I want to run the water level down. So I'm going to go in through the dirty side. I have my torch here. Sorry, bit of a rookie mistake there. So what happened there was, obviously I turned off the water coming in, so the pump is still going. Well, it's not going now. I might have to plug that into the mains and just let it run. What happened was the float switch dropped, and obviously that triggers a rinse, and it rinses the wall as well as everything else. But at least you did see those jets run and the shear force. So let me just take my pump out of here, because I plug that back in there, and I do, hold on, I have to get this European adapter off, so I'll just stick it in here where I have that outlet, and that should continue to run. You can see it going up now. So the water level's obviously dropping, so we're pulling the water out of the filter, pumping it back to the pond. The pond's going to overflow, but there is an overflow on it. So now I won't get soaked, and we'll see. So I really want to kind of drop it down well below. You can see just the entrance there into the inside of the drum. I want the water level certainly on the clean side, and then the biofilter to drop down, so we let that happen. Then it's important, by the way, to close the return as well, because not only water coming into a filter, it doesn't care. Once the filter is below the water level of the pond, the water doesn't care whether it comes in the input or it comes in the return. If anywhere is open, whether it's a return or an input, the water will come back in through there. So once it's drained down sufficiently, you can see the media chamber dropping, and we can also see the drum side dropping. We're nearly there. But if I just turned off the pump now, you would start to see that fill back up again without closing the valve, because the water would start coming back through the return. So in along the outside pipe here, in through the filter and back in, and start topping up the filter again, because it's a gravity fed system. So I need to make sure I close that off to stop that happening. And then I'll try and position my camera on a tripod so you get a reasonable view. And as well, I have my trusty Oasi Pond vac forward there. So what I'm going to do is completely vacuum out the dirty side here, take up the bit of debris that's there that you can just see. You can see it better there, and there's a bit as well on the entrance into the drum, and there's a bit as well on the UV mounts on the dirty side, which I'm not using because, again, you will have seen I have my UV mounted here on the clean side under the drum. So I'll get that out. To be honest, I've also turned off, it is turned off my trickle flow. Just turn that off there. Let this run down a little bit more. I'm not expecting to find an awful lot here. I think this is a good exercise to do every month or so, is to flush out each one of the bottom drains, because although there's a constant flow of water, there still is crud and crap and algae and stuff that gets stuck in the bottom drain. So opening them one at a time forces a significant amount of water through the drain and will potentially dislodge. Now, I've obviously opted to do this into the filter. There are other ways, and people have set up with separate valves on their bottom drain where they go directly to waste. It is possible to do that. For reasons of space and lesser so of cost, I decided not to do that. I spoke in the last, I just turned this off, it seems to be fairly empty now, and close my bottom. Which way does this go? That way. You could even hear, to be honest, the water starting to flow back in there. So that's pretty empty there. So what I'll do is I'll pause for a second, and I'm just going to set up this on the tripod and with a light, and hopefully you can see. I'll drain that down and see what we're doing. It shouldn't take long with the let me see, there's still a bit of water going through there into the drum. It shouldn't take long with the pond vac. It's fairly good, and it's continuous to drain this down and clean it out. So just give me back with you now in a second. Okay, so we're now set up. I have the pond vac in, ready to vacuum out the bits of debris. So I just nip outside and turn on the vac. There we go. Hope you can hear me over the noise. I'll do a little bit of light on this as well. You can see it's just a very quick, thorough job, this. And it is getting the water down very quickly. Small bits of debris, nothing really to write home about. All nearly gone. I'm just getting on top of this. I'm trying to quite see if I can get on top of this. Lock it for the UV. And down here again. Completely out all the crap out of it. Right, so that's the vacuum off. They are a great joke. I highly recommend these OASI Pond Vac 4s. I did have a Pond Tech, which is it was a very basic model prior to that, and Pond Tech, as far as I know, are OASI's kind of bargain brand or cheaper brand name. Still good quality stuff, but the problem, it was grand for my old size pond, about 2,000 litres, but the problem was that it would fill up, it would stop, and it would empty, so it just was not workable on a pond like this. You can see there, don't know how many litres of water will be in there, but this is just constant suction and it's emptying into a shore outside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open one of the valves. So I'll open one of the valves on the bottom drain, so the nearest one to you there, you can see the inlet just there. I'll open that and we should see it start to fill up, and we might get some close it again. Yeah, that's surprisingly a fair amount there. Again, I'll just open it up. You can see as well, it goes into the centre of the drum and gets sieved through the drum, and it's coming out through the drum into the clean side. So it's mostly algae that's there, I think. Yeah, there's a fair bit there, not a huge amount. You can still see the bottom of the filter now, it's settled, but yeah, I just close that down again. Oops, excuse me. Yeah, we'll give it another quick back out. And maybe flush the filter out again. But yeah, interesting. Probably saw a fair bit more through that than I would have expected to see. Okay, just give me a second, I'll back this out and we'll come back to you and we'll do the skimmer. Right, we're back again. I have drained that out just so we see how it looks with a bit of light. Not too bad. I've also drained down the filter again, and there's still a bit of water in the drum and it's filtering through. I suppose it's probably clogged up with all that stuff that went in. So what I'll do is now I'm going to empty up the skimmer and we'll have a look, or open up the skimmer line and see what that does. Oops, and try not to knock over the camera in the process. So that is the skimmer line. Yeah, there's still a bit there. It just goes to show, you know, there is a fair build-up, whether it's fish waste or bacteria. You can see the pull on the skimmer is not quite as strong, maybe because it's higher up in the pond, although it is closer than the other two. There is a bit in that. It just goes to show it is worth doing just to keep the drains dry, or drains clean rather, so it stops the build-up, whether it's algae or fish waste, and you don't get bacterial build up. So that's that one. Yeah, fair bit in there. It does look more like algae, but good to get it out. Still, you can see flowing through the drum, so it's not completely blocked up. What I'll do is again stop here, clean this one down, and we go for the other bottom drain. Right, so that is the skimmer line done. So we've done this near one, bottom drain. I'm not too sure whether it's the front or bottom drain. I'll have to figure that out at some stage. Skimmer, and then the far one you can't see, or can you see it? Oh, you can see it. And just here is the other bottom drain. So I'm going to reach in now and open up the other bottom drain and try and not knock the camera. No, I didn't say knock the camera. I probably will knock the camera. Apologies in advance. Open, and again dirt wise, yep, a fair amount there. Probably mostly algae, I would say, but I just got it drained through. Just get it cleaned out anyway. Just goes to show the normal flow through the filter doesn't clean this stuff out. Right, seems to be settling at that. I just close that bottle drain again. Okay, now I'll probably just back out the dirty side again. You can see as well over, it has got quite dirty. There is a lot of settlement there in the bottom and around it's not getting in on the clean side really, so that's good. So what I'm going to do now, and I probably won't bore you with the details, but I will back out this side again, clean it up. And then I'll top off the filter, and I'm going to need to top off the pond. So as I mentioned earlier, I have some water prepared already in the back part of the pond I'm not using, so it will allow me to top it up very quickly. Once that I topped up, what I'll do is I'll do a manual clean on the drum, and we'll just see how much crud is in the drum itself and watch it go out through the waste chute. So I'll be back to you in a second. Right. I have the butt pump in the back part of the pond, so it's topping off. What I'm noticing is here, the water has slowed up fairly much. So I opened up the 3 bottom drains. Still is a bit of sediment in there as you'd expect, but we'll either go into the drum or it'll settle. I'm not worried about it. It's just the initial clean out that's important. So what I may do is just do a quick manual clean of the drum. So you may want to just keep an eye on the waste sheet there and see how much comes through. So you can see there was as we would expect, a lot of dirt in there, a lot of dirty water, but now the pond, the water's flowing much better through the drum, and the water, you can see the 2 black marks there just beside the opening for the cables. The top one is the maximum allowed water height, that's 12 centimeters or 120 mil from the top. The bottom one is the minimum allowed, which is another 20 mil or 2 centimeters or 14 centimeters from the top. My water settles slightly above the minimum one, which is well within tolerance and pretty good. So as soon as that comes up again, might give another manual clean, just speed it up again. So again, that's got a fair bit more out. In the normal course of operating day to day, it tends to wash about every 30 minutes or so, and it runs for 10 seconds if even that. When I do look at the waste chute, the water's fairly crystal clear, so whatever clogs up the drum is very minuscule. It's not sort of large particles and very obvious crud like that. We're getting back to our normal running height. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. There is a bit more settlement down there, you can possibly see. Not worried about the settlement, I can clean that out. It was really just flushing the drains, which I think I did fairly well, but it's definitely an exercise. You know, it's one, the drums are not completely maintenance free. Well, it's not the drum itself, it's it's the drains. They're never maintenance free. They do need to be flushed from time to time, and you know, you could see there was a fair amount in there that doesn't move in the normal course of events. Even though I'm very lightly stocked, I've 1 koi and 10 goldfish in a 20,000 litre pond. It's going to get much more heavily stocked, so definitely that exercise will need to be done. Again, I'll just try another manual clean and see what we get out of it just still. A bit more that time, but nowhere near as bad. So I'm going to start things up again. I think I'll probably start up the filter, the pump again. Let me do that. Right. Right, we have the pump running again, so the filter is back operating. So I will leave it just to let you, even though I just hoovered out the dirty side 3 times, which isn't a huge amount of water. How much would that be? A couple of 100 litres at the most. It still manages to drop the pond level down by 3 or 4 inches. Now, if I was filling that up from the tap and my water pressure isn't great, that would take several hours. That's why I fill the back of the pond and then fill it with the water. But now, of course, when I did empty the filter at the start and pump the water back into the pond was overflowing into the overflow, so I did lose a fair bit of water. I calculate the filter in itself, when it's running at its normal height, holds about 700 to 800 litres, so it is fairly significant. So I hope you found that useful. If you want to see more badly made videos on dodgy camera work that would make the Blair Witch Project look good, let me know. If you have anything else you want to see on the build or more detail on the filter, let me know in the comments. Hope you found this useful. Hope it gave you an insight into how a drum filter works, and hope it frightened you a bit into maybe flushing your bottom drains and your skimmer line a bit more often. As I say, that's 4 weeks. Although in fairness, my pond has been sitting for about 5 months, although I wasn't using any of these lines. I had a pressure filter and a pump in the bottom of it over the winter just to keep me ticking over, but there still obviously would have been water in those bottom drains in the build up, so it's probably not representative really of just 4 weeks of operation. I'd probably say it's 5 months, but yeah, definitely something I'll be doing into the future, and is well worth doing, just to clear that crud and get any potential bacteria that's lurking in there that may be harmful to the fish in the longer term. Thanks a lot. See you next time.